Hi, my name's Irrelevant, and today on the show, part 2 of my 2021 monolith upgrades. I have a Western Digital 1TB SN850 Gen 4 NVMe SSD. Try saying that 3 times fast. Oh, the unboxing. Aerial unboxing. Yes. Just pull it out. Pretty straightforward. Drop some documentation. We have this little pupper right here. These lovely little gum stick drives. Oh, how infatuated with them I am. Now, this is a drive that I've been waiting for a while, actually. As soon as I started seeing the Gen 4 NVMe SSDs drop, I knew it was only a matter of time before Western Digital did one too. But they're usually a little bit later to the game. I like to think they take their time to perfect something before they rush it to the market, make sure that it's good. But, you know, who knows? That might just be fanboy speak right there. Moving up to 1TB is a decision because it allows me to phase out the need for two 500s. I have a 500 and a 512 in there. The 512 is a OEM Samsung, one of those weird PM models that you see on eBay. And, well, I tried one out. It works well, except no software support. Small victory. Now I'm starting off here at the system itself because I need to establish a baseline. So we're gonna run a few tests to see if we can compare speeds. Now my system currently has a Gen 3, literally Gen 3 Western Digital SN850, 500 gigabytes. This would be my 4th Western Digital NVMe. I've owned all the gens. Used to be, if you wanted a good SSD, you pretty much had to buy Samsung. That was until Western Digital hit the market with SSDs after they bought out SanDisk, and then they are one of the few companies that make SSDs that can compete with Samsung. Pretty much, in my opinion, if you want to buy a good SSD for building yourself the best enthusiast rig possible, you only have 2 choices, Samsung or Western Digital. The rest of those guys, I don't know. Whatever. Some of them were pioneers, I'll give them that. But now, on the note of Samsung, the Magician program is very handy because it has a built-in performance benchmark. Not sure what kind of bias it might have if it intentionally kind of downplays the performance of other drives, but nevertheless, it'll spit out some numbers that I can use. 3481 read, 2594 write, IOPS 351,000 read, 281,000 write. Now remember, this is an active C drive that's been running in this system for years. This is not a freshly formatted empty drive. This drive's being used right now. Now, Samsung Magician is not a recognized standard, so we're gonna stick with something a little bit more recognizable. Seen here, we have Crystal Disk Mark 7.0 Best Girl Waifu Edition. Arbitrarily, I'm gonna pick a 512 meg file in the real world benchmark that it has, and let's rip on this and see what numbers it'll spit out. Aha! Similar numbers, but with slight lag. SN850, 2531 read, 2604 write, random 4K 52.6, but the write 207.36. Somehow I feel like those numbers should be higher. I'm still getting used to Crystal Disk Mark. IOPS 12,000 read, that's abnormally low. 50,000 write. Those are far off from those hundreds of thousands that we recognize. And then, you know, we have our random response time, 77 and 19 respectively. So even though these numbers don't quite agree with Samsung, this is all about comparisons. When we install this pupper in there, what are we gonna get out of it? Now, just for apes and Artians, I've got a SanDisk X600. This is your representation of a pretty bog standard modern SSD. I got this adapter plate that I fabricated so that I can pop a 2.5 right into this 3.5 hot swap. We're gonna run a test on that just to see off the cuff what the difference is between an NVMe SSD and a standard SSD. Sequential read 26838, sequential write 25448. Random read 3577, random write 7647. Read IOPS 8733, write IOPS also faster at 18670. And then our latency 1432 and 53.41. As you can see by these numbers right off the hop, wow, an NVMe is significantly faster than a standard SATA SSD, but you know, we kind of expect that. So why do I make a video about installing an SSD? That seems like such an arbitrary, easy task. It's not when you have an enthusiast grade system that's bogged down with all sorts of hardware and water cooling. It's going to be a surgical process to install this. So I guess you're going to be joining me on that journey. Let's head to the workshop. Now, one thing you notice about Monolith right away, there is entirely a lot going on in here. So the SSD is under here. And to get at that, we need to pull that heatsink off. But that heatsink is underneath this other heatsink here. In order to get that off, we have to pull our cards. So we have, a pair of Vega 64s here because, Team Red, and they haven't really made anything better since recently and you can't even get it. But fortunately for me, I use soft tubing, and I use soft tubing in this build for the deliberate reason of, I'm gonna change something quite recently and frequently, and yeah. Now, they're linked with hard tubing. They're soft tubed, but linked with hard tube. I should just be able to lift these out, but they're gonna come out together as one cohesive unit. So, yeah, it's hard to do this without getting my face all. Oh, we gotta press these buttons back here. The PCI Express release switches, if you will. Where's the other one? Gotta go hunting for it there. Okay, I think I got it. Oh, that's on a short fuse. These rotate, but okay. Oh, they're hung up. Oh no, there's an RGB cable. It's hung up on an RGB cable. Okay, what if we just kind of, I need something to prop this up on that's going to stay. 9600, good for something. There. Yeah, that looks sloppy, just kind of guts hanging out of there. Sexy. But we can get at those heat sinks now real quick like. And hopefully the screwdriver is reasonably magnetic. Yes, okay. Now I want to keep track of these screws because they're a little bit different lengthed. Oh, nice. Well, that works in our favor. I admit it's been a year since I've been this deep into my system, so I kind of forgot, And you upgrade so frequently, you kind of forget. I didn't even remember what this motherboard looked like. To be honest, it's been buried since I got it last year. That's an Asus X570 Crosshair VIII Hero, even though I ain't no hero. It's 8, right? It's not 9? I've lost track. Ugh. They have captive screws. I forgot you loosen the screw, but it stays in there. That's a rather nice feature. Gotta reorient this goo pad, make her all nice again. And then this one also doubles to hold down the drive itself. So now we pull that black drive out of there. Boop. And now we put in the new one. Nope, not yet. Obviously we need to copy things over, right? We do some data migration. Now most people, they do it right on the system, but I don't roll that way unless I have to, not under these circumstances. I'm gonna show you how I do data migration because I'm a technician and I'm set up to do all the things. We're gonna take the old drive and put it in this M2 adapter. This M2 adapter with a very strange mounting solution that goes in from the arse end. This is a cheap adapter. I think it was $7 on eBay, but it does the job. And these are pretty passive, they just have to connect the two different things together. This is already ready to plug into the PCIe bus, so it hasn't got a hard job to do. Oh yeah, that's cute now. The return of the hard card, as I like to call it. Here's a more expensive StarTech one. The first one that I bought before NVMe became so common you could buy a cheap eBay one. Even if you could get a cheap eBay one, coming direct from Big Rock Candy Mountain via slow boat takes about 2 months, and if you're in a hurry, that's no good. I gotta put the new one in here, nice and red. So what do you do with a couple drunken hard cards early in the morning? You plug them into ye old workbench system. That's what you do. Now my workbench system's only a Ryzen 1200 with 8 gigs of RAM. It's not designed for horsepower, it's designed for connectivity. So I'm using a Gigabyte AX370 Gaming 7 motherboard on there. X370 board with a lowly 1200 processor. Why? Because I need all those PCI Express ports and all that connectivity. On the front, you notice I have 2 SATA hot swap bays, two 2.5-inch SATA hot swap bays. As you can see the direction I'm going in, this system is fully set up for all your data migration needs. Oh boy, she's looking a little dusty down here, bud. Yeah, of course it's water cooled, even though it doesn't have to be water cooled. I water cool everything. It even has this 7000 series Radeon Pegatron Dell OEM friggin' low-end card because, you know, you need a GPU with the 1200, and that's water cooled too, using a cheap E-Blade, blah, you plus near blah. That dialog just went, it's a cheap water block, okay? And it's in one of the slave PCI Express ports, the chipset port. Next you see my capture card for when I'm capturing those nice vintage computer video stuff. And you're gonna notice the two main PCI Express ports, they are intentionally left blank. That way I can just go ahead and slot these puppers in there. And yeah, without the back plates on those things, I can just plug them in without having to bust out screwdrivers. So those are just in there, ready to go. I just fire up on this pupper and let's get to her. So first I'm gonna go check out the disk management, see how these puppers are sitting. Oh, hey, look at that. Initialize disk. Should I? Yeah, probably. All right, so the program that I like to use for data migration is Paragon Hard Disk Manager 15. It's not the cheapest piece of software in the world, but it's what I've been using to do data migration for years now. It hasn't let me down unless I let it down. Now there's a migrate OS function. That is if you were taking the local running OS and moving it to another drive. In this case, we're not doing that. So we want the copy hard disk. It doesn't matter what you click on because it's gonna start a wizard. Wizard. Copy to 500 to the 1T. Yes, continue copy operation. Remove free blocks between partitions, copy data, and resize proportionally. That's good. So now we go apply and let her have at her. Now, I wonder what Task Manager is going to say about disk usage. It's going to spend a little while reading the original disk before actually transferring to the second one. I would imagine it should go relatively quickly on a NVMe to NVMe transfer. Oh, it stopped reading. What's it going to do next? Oh, no, more reading. It says it's copying, but I don't see activity on the second drive. Oh, there it goes. Write speed 2.4 gigabytes a second. Read 2.4. Oh yeah, okay. Frickin' giving her. All processes are applied operations. Have applied, has. I am not reading correctly right now. Either way, it's done. Now I gotta pull this out and start installing it back to the other system. I hope I properly closed screen capture and didn't lose all that footage. That would suck. Yeah, I'll have to, aye! Hey, that was a Linus Sebastian Pro move right there. I just dropped my brand new SSD. All right, now I have to go ahead and sort on this mess, get this put all back together. I might run the little electro broom through it real quick. There's a little bit of dust in that chipset heatsink. Now we have this awkward process of, okay, so this both holds it down. So we gotta kind of put this in first. And yeah, nothing really holds that down. You kind of just have to sandwich this on there. It's tricky aligning this all up. I wonder what Asus was thinking. Did I get it? Oh yeah, I got it. Okay, good. I guess it's not that hard if you know what you're doing, so maybe that's what they were thinking. Some engineers probably like, that's kind of an awkward way of doing it. There's nothing to hold it down while you apply the sticky to it, and oh, if they know what they're doing, they'll figure it out. This is a Crosshair Hero board after all. Ain't no plebs who don't know how to build are gonna be running this board. You know, if we didn't put this thing in there, it'd be a heck of a lot easier to work with this, but nice little bit of aesthetic. Okay, now we have to wrangle these back into place. Insert. 4 height cards, 2 slots at the same time. I cannot see the bottom slot. Come on now. I think I got it. And push. Yeah, we look good. All right, we're in. Well, that was more painless than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be more of a wrestling match. I have done this before, I think, or I did it with my old Strix F board. I think this is the first time I had to do this with this board. Yeah, I think the Strix F was more of a pain in the ass because it had an actual hard aluminum piece that linked over the chipset over this thing. So there was no sliding a little shroud out of place. You had to really get in there. I guess they've improved the design. We gotta get our cables back out. All the power, dual 8 pins, and no jumpering. When you're running cards this powerful, you don't use the dual connector. You use 2 individual lines. That's at least my philosophy. Like this hardware set sucks back enough hydro to pop a 1200 watt power supply. And there she is. All right, now we gotta go hook it back up and hope for the best, right? Yeah. Let's see if this guy's gonna boot. She lights. We know she's gonna post. Nothing's changed in that department. There's no other bootable drive in here. It's hanging a bit. Migrating the OS would be something I could do locally if my ports weren't full, but I guess for this purpose I could have pulled my Intel 750. Well, this isn't promising. Tapping that delete key, tapping that delete key, yeah. 06. Okay, so this is wonderful. She's hanging up, bud. She's hanging up, code 06. Not sure what, isn't it great when you hold the button to turn the system off and it just does a restart? Did I tell you to turn back on, bud? Oh, I think BIOS might be a bit confused right now. I wonder if while working on there I finagled something a little bit wrong. It's the problem with high-end enthusiast systems, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. You get these weird ghosts in the blood that you can't quite figure out and they just behave weird, but that's what happens when you got a system that just gets so complicated. It appears what started off as a standard data migration is going to now turn into a troubleshooting process. All right, so start off with the basics. We need to cut power to this thing. Oh, you know what just occurred to me? I'm plugged into the wrong video card. Maybe I've gone and confused the system. Let's see if that makes a difference. No, we're still stuck in 06. Wonderful. Pop 1, pop 2. That pop didn't pop nice. Maybe this second card is not sitting right. All right, give me a beep, bud. Give me a beep. Well, next thing, clear CMOS. No, we're hung on 06 again. Oh, would you look at that? I pulled the drive out and it boot right up. We have a little bit of a conflict with this drive. I gotta get the old drive, pop her back in there and make sure she boots again. All right, so easy peasy. I'm just gonna slip that in there. You don't actually have to screw them down to have the electrical connection you need. All you really need to do is make sure they're not popping out. I wonder if I need a BIOS update to support this drive. All right, so we're booted back into Windows normally with the original drive. So now we have to troubleshoot from there. Turn this back off now. At least we know our system's not screwed up. See, I just kind of held it in place with a screwdriver. Let's pop that popper back out. Pop the new one back in. Just kind of hold it in place with the screwdriver again. Okay, there's where we last left off. Hanging up on 06 again. Huh, all right then. Plan B. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna pull out our SN850. There she is. That's the drive that I do all my editing on. Nice commercial grade NVMe SSD. We're gonna take our original drive and I'm gonna pop her into that slave slot. We're gonna see if we can get the system to boot off this original drive. Well, no, it's still hanging. I don't think it cares. Okay, we're gonna put our original drive back into the proper boot position. So now our new drive's set up as a slave. Now let's see if she'll boot. There's 06 again, yet this drive worked fine on the other system. Weird. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and I'm going to go back into BIOS here with that drive removed because there is a very possibly simple explanation to this. And that is I bought this board when it just came out and I don't believe I've ever updated the BIOS on it. And sure enough, looking on the Asus website and looking at some of the BIOS revisions, there were several that say improve M2 drive compatibility. So you want to take a wild guess what the solution to this problem was or is. Do you want to read this file? BIOS information, version 11.05. Date 11.04.19. It's not even the newest BIOS in the world. Processing. Update successfully. System will be reset. Wonder what the new SoC voltage is going to be. Oh, look at that. Go figure. It dropped down to a significantly lower SoC voltage. You remember how the Crosshair 8 had those 8D errors because the SoC was too high? Voltages that were good for the old Zens weren't good for the Zen 2. They stuck with the old 1.1 SoC, overvolting it. And bam, now we're at 1.16. So now that we might have improved M2 compatibility, let's put this pupper back in and see what happens. 06, we're still stuck here. This board doesn't like this drive. All right, another aspect of the plan. You see, this drive is very, very new and it has a new firmware with known firmware glitches, according to the Googling anyway and doing some searching. So sure enough, installing it in the other system where it does seem to work just fine, it does have the old original firmware that is known to be flawed. So I ran the dashboard and I updated the firmware. Let's see if that makes a difference. All right, what do you think? Any difference? We're still gonna hang on 06. We've updated the motherboard BIOS. We've updated the drive firmware. If it doesn't work now, we're SOL. There's 06. our 06 error. Hey, buds, I epic derped out. It just realized to me, I have 2 copies of Crosshair BIOS on here. It appears I did flash the BIOS on this, probably when I first got it to fix the AD error. I accidentally flashed the wrong BIOS onto this board. Hey, look at that. So, let's try the new BIOS now. Oh, ho, 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 ho. You get flustered sometimes and you don't pay attention. Which is funny because that BIOS flash did correct the SoC. Huh, I swear it didn't before. Definitely taking longer. Oh, why are you frozen? Oh, it's still going. It just doesn't look like it is. But it's taken a while. Freaking scared me there for a second, but here I was thinking I just bricked my board. This is taking a while. BIOS is updating LED firmware. Hey, maybe Aura won't suck as much anymore, eh? BIOS is updating. Oh, more. This is quite the process. Hey, it shut down on its own. I didn't do it. Now it's turned on its own. Okay, we're back in now. Let's just check our BIOS real quick. 3003, we got the proper BIOS version now. How's our voltages looking? CPU still abnormally high. SoC down to 1 volt. Oh boy, 1 volt SoC, bud. Okay. Okay, we're just going to turn on DOHCP, so at least I'm getting my proper RAM profile, and then we'll call it good there. Now, let's pop that pupper in there and see if there's any difference. There better be, so let's find out. Oh, okay. You RAM training? At least that's telling us something. It's not hanging up, it's thinking, it's doing things. Little slow to go, little slow to go. Come on now. Ah, good. Except we have to run F1 again because, yeah, get out of here and boot into Windows, finally, for the first time. And how long have I been going at this? Oh, wow. And I went and wiped that drive for nothing. I bet you it would have booted no problem now. I got to go do the data migration process all over again. Oh, finally. My icons are oddly spread apart. Disk management, there it is. Okay, so it was just a BIOS issue. Oh, you fricking. You went and cranked the volume on us again. I guess now we can continue. I got a break for dinner real quick. You know, in retrospect, it's kind of amusing how that got the best of me there for a moment. I don't think that would have slipped by me last year. I've been playing with a lot of old hardware lately, and just hardware in general, and for a moment, I can kind of appreciate and identify what some of the other YouTubers go through. You know, I watch a lot of Jay's Two Cents and Gamer's Nexus and some of these other guys. You know, they have their moments where, you know, little bits of misinformation or misunderstanding slip so subtle that if you blink, you miss it. And only a guy with a lot of experience can really pick up on that. I know I sound like I'm tooting my own horn, but I've been doing this a long freaking time. I feel on par with at least Jay's Two Cents, you know. Gamer's Nexus, he's a bit up there. Unfortunately, no offense to these guys, Bitwit and Paul's Hardware, they feel young to me. But I digress. These guys work with so much equipment, they've probably forgotten more about hardware than most of us know. So you can't blame them when they have those human moments. Just like this, doing something that I know how to do extremely well, yet just derping out and be like, oh, did I update the BIOS? That's such a simple problem. Such a simple problem. But anyway, now it's solved. Now we have to get into it. And because I derped out the copy Windows, I already migrated over. I gotta do it all over again. But that's fine. We're gonna use the migrate OS function this time. Read the disclaimer. Continue. Looking for operating system. Wizard found yes. And you're gonna put it here. Use all available space for the OS partition and create a new EFI boot entry. That's gonna make sure we have no problem booting off this pupper. Finish. Apply. Now it's probably gonna have to restart the system and do this in a more diminished mode. And wow, my taskbar is all friggin' weirded out right now. This is gonna be quite the mess to clean up, I think, especially having to put this guy back together. Sucks doing all that work just to have to rip it apart again, but we couldn't get the system to boot at all with the drive installed, so we would have had to have pulled it to flash the BIOS unless we thought to do that first, which I didn't. I'm not in the habit of flashing BIOS unless I have to. Unless I know there's a problem, then I do it, because I'm a very, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of guy, which is the reason why Windows Update is so offensive. Oh, it's doing something. I was expecting it to restart. What the hell? The plot thickens. This won't do. This really won't do. Retry the operation. This better not be screwing with me. What is this? Okay, I don't like this. I don't like this one bit. Stop, stop, stop. Yes. go away. We're switching things up a bit. Just to be sure. We're gonna pull this boot drive out because we got the 850 on this adapter in which we have two conflicts. One being there's no cooling on it and this drive's known to run hot. And two being this is probably not validated for Gen 4. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna stick this proper in the top Gen 4 slot that we would like to install it in. And then we're gonna put the heatsink in place. We're gonna assume that if we get this to copy successfully, we're not gonna have to pull this back out. Yeah, this is a contortion. Okay, that drive's proper in place now. We're gonna stick the original drive onto this adapter. That is Gen 3 matched. The story continues. I did not expect to be doing this long. Now let's try that again. Migrate OS. Yes, you found the Windows 10. It's detecting both of them now. We want to copy this C1 over to the WDS, yes, proper. Use all available space, create new EFI. Wow, third time's the charm, right? Please tell me third time's the charm. Ah, restart required. This is the behavior that I was expecting, and we might not get an IO error doing it this way. All right, there we go, the proper Paragon engine. Now it's gonna give her a go. Oh, is this it? Yeah, she's giving her. Hopefully this is it. Searching for Microsoft Windows. Updating boot configuration data. BCD, I've played with that before. Press any key to continue. Hey, I didn't even have to, it did it on its own. But we got no errors this time, and that's what we wanted. So, yeah, third time was the charm, wasn't it? All right, we're in. So if we take a quick peek in disk management, what do we have here? The C drive is the new one. Oh boy, it automatically migrated over. Or maybe that was the intention. Maybe Paragon automatically, oh look, it has something to say. Okay, so I'm gonna shut down. I'm gonna pull the old drive out once and for all. Now I have a spare NVMe. Now let's start it up and see that everything is going to be seamless. To be fair, that boot did feel faster. Yeah, I was just like, beep, beep. Oh boy, I think I'm noticing a difference here. Okay. Yay! Finally, after 1,000 years searching for that caramel secret, we got some creamy goodness. That is a fast drive. All right, waifu best girl, what say you? Oh boy, they're not the spectacular 7,000 numbers advertised, but they're certainly more. That write speed, ha ha ha. Sequential read, 4350 80 sequential write. 51 89 53, random read 83 23, random write 244 78, read IOPS 2319, write IOPS 59 760, and then our latency, oh boy, yeah, it goes down 4911 1661. Oh, we are back online now, and we're finally Gen 4. Yes. So here I've made a new section of the spreadsheet for the Samsung Magician results. So now let's use its performance benchmark and compare, because clearly whatever Samsung Magician tests is, you know, more designed to make an SSD look good and match the advertised numbers. I guess now I can copy the Steam games that are on my D drive over to my C drive. I don't need a D drive anymore. And there we have it. Definitely more closer to advertised numbers, well, within reason. 6951 read, 5139 write, and IOPS 448, 486, and 38371. Well, that's a far cry from the million that it advertises. Yeah, up to 1 million IOPS. Instead, we're getting conservatively 500,000. It is an improvement over the SN850, but you know, half of the motivation for getting this is I was ready to upgrade to a 1 terabyte C drive over a 500, so I didn't have to split my load between my C and D drive. I initially had a 500 and was able to score a second 512 for dirt cheap. But now I'm accustomed to having that much space, and now I've consolidated it onto 1 drive. So even though I wasn't after the sheer performance, I was after the space, and it was, you know, a logical upgrade, especially being an enthusiast, having access to Gen 4. All right, well, this has certainly been more of a fiasco than I expected it to be. It's a good thing this wasn't a how-to video. I don't really do how-to. This is an entertainment video. Watching me do the process of migrating my OS, and you might learn something. and you might have something to look for there. Obviously, we need to update our BIOS, moving to Gen 4 if you haven't done it recently. And I definitely hadn't done it recently. But that is 3 for 3 upgrading Monolith. I have some RGB tweaking and water cooling coming next. And that will be the 4th thing I do to it this season. And then I'm gonna be done with this. But hey, if you like this, stay tuned, because this is the kind of stuff that I get into sometimes. Staring into the sun here. You guys don't know some of what's involved here. Okay, I can finally turn this light off.